Good evening, good morning, wherever you may be. Streaming to you from the East Coast to the left coast and around the world on UCY.tv. This is All Things Apocalyptic with your host, G. Michael Hopf. Well, hey guys, I've obviously been gone for about 2 weeks. I was just kind of messing around doing some stuff and things just weren't lining up, so I took some time off. Last week was the elections, and I was going to have a guest on. A guest wasn't going to make it, and then I got an offer to go and watch the election results with a group of friends. Where there was going to be copious amounts of alcohol, so I chose to do that, and just kind of watch as things unfolded that night, and the politics that are played out. So today is yesterday. Was the Marine Corps birthday, so to any Marines out there, Semper Fi and happy birthday to you. And today is Veterans Day, and I want to thank all those veterans that are out there, all you war fighters. Thank you for your sacrifice that you've done for this republic. It's not necessarily the country we might want it to be, but I know what your intentions are and what you're fighting for. So. Thank you. And I also want to get another shout out. And it doesn't happen all that often, but I want to give a shout out because it is Veterans Day. I want to give a shout out to all those families, those spouses that stand behind those men and women that are out there doing what they're doing. It's critical to have that kind of support system. And a lot of those spouses, a lot of those families are kind of the unsung heroes out there as they kind of go about their lives without their significant others as they're overseas fighting in some kind of conflict, the endless conflicts that we have nowadays. But so thank you to you guys as well. You're very, very, very important to the war fighters and the veterans. So tonight is going to be a little bit of a different show because it is Veterans Day. I was going to have this one gentleman come on, but he couldn't make it, and then I ended up getting a much better guest that's going to be coming on soon. He should be calling in here in say about 5 minutes or 10 minutes or so. But it's going to be a good show. We're going to be talking about vets and specifically the war fighters movement that's really sprung up over this past decade plus of sustained combat that these guys have gone through. And that's something I kind of want to talk about. There's as far as I know, I tend to read. I was reading a lot of articles, and there's stuff everywhere about Veterans Day and heroes and things along that line. And you always kind of get to the heart of how some people think or how some Americans might think, and it's very interesting that. For the most part, people are pretty cool. They're about thank you to the guys, the men and women that are in uniforms, etc. But there are some haters that are out there, and it's always fascinated me why someone would be such a hater like that, where they literally hate veterans. They think what veterans are nothing just but hired killers to go out on the behalf of the government and do their bidding. And I can tell you, as being a veteran myself, that's not what we do. Do we get our orders from a government that's supposed to be elected? We do. And we go out there, but we don't go out there and do the things that we do because we like to kill. We don't go out there and do that for that reason. We go out because we love the concept of what our country is supposed to be. We fight for that. We fight for that dream of an America that is free. We fight for that concept of a republic. And so there are those haters out there, and I just want to kind of throat punch them. But they probably tend to be those guys. Most of them tend to be guys I see that have that kind of hate and vitriol. Those guys that just didn't have the cojones to go out and try something, so they're just jealous. That's the only thing I can think of. I'm trying to understand why there would be so much hate. But it exists, and guess what? You have every right to have that hate and speak it. Every right to spew the garbage from your mouth because someone else went out there and made sure that you could do that. And that's what's so interesting is there's the guest I'm going to have on tonight, Boon Cutler is his name, is an incredible American. And what he's going to touch on is, and some of his views are probably kind of controversial. And I've listened to a lot of the stuff he's come out with, and he kind of speaks to what a lot of us veterans feel in some regard. As far as when you get some of those haters out there to say the things that they do, or this concept that every veteran is somehow some mentally deranged individual, and this because he's just trying to express some emotional response to some of the things that he's experienced or she's experienced, that there's somehow a mental problem and we need to give them some kind of a combat cocktail of drugs, and or being a veteran is a mental illness nowadays. And I can tell you guys, that's total bullshit. And I think a lot of vets are tired of being pandered to. I think a lot of vets are tired. We want an opportunity when we come back to our country, the one that we fought for. We don't want to be given charity. We want to be given opportunity. And if I know I don't talk for every man and woman that's been in uniform before, as well as every man and woman that's actually been in combat, but I've talked to enough of them to know that that's not what they want. And it is disgusting when you come back to a country and where it's not kind of out there and it's not kind of in their face like it was during Vietnam. There's this kind of underground kind of, oh, you're a vet. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, better stand over here because you might go postal on me. You might go crazy on me. You might decide to start shooting up a place. And vets are now starting to become some kind of a second-class citizenry because we are unstable, and we kind of have to, put you over here in this box and hide you, and then kind of give you a lot of drugs, and hopefully you won't act out and be crazy. So I've gotten over the years, I've gotten very, very passionate about it. When I got out of the Marine Corps in 1995, and when I got out, I was so ready to get out. I was so done with being in the Marine Corps. And it's interesting when you get out, and when I got out, I grew my hair out. I just did whatever the hell I wanted to. I didn't want people to tell me what to do. And it was a few years after that I finally, the light bulb went off, and I was like, damn, that was a pretty cool experience. That was actually really unique. And I found myself gravitating back toward the circles and the type of person that kind of goes in the military. And I found myself then in jobs, and then again being surrounded by warriors again, and kind of fitting back into that warrior culture. So, 1 second, hold on. He's trying to call in here, so just give me a minute. See what is going on here. So hold on. He's trying to call in. What's happening here? Come on, Boone, let's get you in here. Let's see. Let me make sure I got him that right number. I apologize for the technical thing here. Just trying to make sure I got him this right number here. It says it's not answering. So Jules, if you're listening, is the call-in number hooked up? Let me see. 71. Call-in number I have is 718-717-8296. And he says he can't. He says it's not answering. So, Jules, if you're listening, I'm not sure if the call-in number is set up or not. I was having my guest call in tonight, but he's no answer. Anyway, so where was I? So I found myself kind of gravitated back toward being around people because there's a like mind that we all had, and that got me thinking today. I went for a long hike today. I like to go out and hike around and do things. It looks like he's trying to call in again here. Hold on. Sorry about this. I'm trying to get this all squared away. It's not coming in. Again, I apologize, guys. I'm trying to make sure this happens. Okay. Oh, I can't. It says it's not working. So, 1 second. Damn it. Okay. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah. So I went for a hike. I like to go for a hike. It kind of clears my mind. And I got thinking about my experience in the military, and I got thinking about kind of what America wants to portray itself as. And the country likes to portray itself as is that everyone is equal, or we all have equal opportunity. That's probably the best way to put it. Not equal, because I don't think we all are equal. We're not all equal in our abilities. We're not all equal in the things that we're capable of, but we all have, or should have, equal opportunity to the things that we want. And so, but what got me thinking was how the military, in a lot of ways, is almost a direct reflection of what the country says it wants to be. Growing up, I'm white, and I grew up in a middle class home. I can't say I spent a lot of time with people that are black. Growing up in Maryland, there weren't any Mexicans around. But when I went in, it gave me an exposure to different cultures and different people, different walks of life, etc. And I actually came out of the Marine Corps with very good friends from all different races and creeds. And when you're in there, you're not black, you're not white, you're not Mexican or whatever. You're just a brother in arms. You're just somebody that you're that person next to you that you're willing to die for. And the color barrier, and this was my experience, was gone. It didn't exist. And that is supposed to be the America we're always told we're supposed to have. But what's interesting is, so here I am in the military experiencing this, and then when I get out, I'm told when I get out I'm supposed to transition. That's always the word. I always love that word. Transition. Transition to what? Transition to America. Transition to the America that they say wants to have us. And I've come to find out it's not that type of America that I was experiencing. So I was like, okay, so why should I transition? And this is why I wish I could get Boon on right now. He's tried a couple times, but he can't get in. Now I can't reach him. And that is his viewpoint on this. And this is what rings true for me right now. And that is just that, why should we try to transition? We are who we are. Our experience being in the military, specifically combat veterans, our experience has just changed us. We're not going to go back and be somebody else again. We're not that person we were before. We're never going to go back and become a civilian. There's like two different sets of people. There are civilians and then there are veterans. And why should we go back and try to assimilate back into something we can't do? It just can't happen. Oh, here he is. He's calling in right now. Excellent. Hey, Boon, are you there?
Yeah, I'm right here, bro. How you doing?
Good. I've been just sitting here talking. I'm so thrilled to have you on. Just give me 1 second, and I kind of want to give everyone who's listening on the show kind of your bio. Do you mind?
Okay. No problem at all, man. Happy to do it.
Yeah. So again, my guest tonight is Boon Cutler. He's a combat veteran of the Iraq War. He's the author of the book Voodoo in Solder City, and a strong advocate for warfighters' rights. He is also an on-air personality and host of the radio show Tipping Point with Boon Cutler on Fox News Radio. He has, in my personal opinion, I think it's a very unique, and some will say it's a controversial message to the American warfighter, and that is, do not assimilate back into society. And that's kind of a point I was just talking about. Besides the countless hours he gives to warfighters, he is also a Hollywood technical advisor for storylines related to post-traumatic stress disorder, warfighter suicide, and other post-combat life changes regarding our warfighters, as well as he also consults law enforcement crisis negotiator units across America and Canada. And he's also a popular no-nonsense speaker to political and corporate audiences. Everything that he does is related back to when you were severely injured in Solder City, correct?
A good portion of it, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, I'm no longer on the Fox News Network. That's kind of an old bio. I started out there, but now I'm over at with another distributor.
Oh, okay. I apologize for that inaccuracy.
No, it's all good. I appreciate you. I mean, that's a very thorough bio, and I appreciate you going through that. And I mean, wow, I'm very humbled. Thank you.
No, I'm very excited to have you on, and I've been just the past week and a half. I've been listening to your shows and watching your videos, and I just watched one today about the extinction.
Right.
And powerful, man. Good stuff. And you like got me really invigorated. And I was kind of this vet that just kind of sat on the sidelines after I got out. I was kind of that vet where, and my wife would get on me because we go to SeaWorld or something, and they'd say, all right, can all the veterans please stand up? And I wouldn't stand up. And it wasn't because I just don't want all this attention on me, right? And
Right.
I'm just not that kind of guy. But lately I don't know what it is. I'm getting kind of pissed off at how kind of the world is right now. And some of what you were saying really struck a chord with me, specifically the do not assimilate back into society. So, and I was just kind of talking about that. Can you kind of tell everybody, well, actually, if I missed anything in your bio, please kind of inform the listeners who you are, but then kind of segue into kind of answering that question.
Yeah, no problem. Just to clarify the bio, I'm always available for storylines with the Hollywood stuff. We're moving more into that. Primarily, that's been focused on music videos. I work really heavy with Redcon One Music group. Recently, I've been working with John Preston. He just had some stuff come out, and just warfighter related. Music, storylines, anything like that, because that's narrative, and a lot of that comes in through the arts. So I focus a lot on the arts. I focus a lot on politics. Some people see it as two different venues. I just see it as another way to deliver a message and to get things done. It's very, I don't get very emotional about it. It's just the way things get done, and this is America. But as far as do not assimilate, yeah, and this is the reason why, because it's never happened. It's never happened. It's a fallacy. It's something that people say happens. It's something that people say has happened, but it never has happened. If you're a warfighter and you're born a warfighter, you go over there, you fight that war, you come back. We can't become civilians again. That just doesn't happen. It's a ridiculous thought to even think that it would happen. So we put a lot of pressure on warfighters that come back when they say, "Hey, you got to get back into society. Get back in." Really? Why would I want to get back into society? What does society have to offer that is so fantastic that I just can't live without it? Nothing. Nothing at all. It has nothing to offer that I just can't live without. But what I do know that I can't live without is I can't live without understanding and being in an environment that is one of nobility, that is one of integrity, that is one of accountability, all of leadership. These are all the things that America is lacking, and these are the things that warfighters possess. So it's not that I am a separatist to the point of, hey, you should go, grow a big long beard and go live in the mountains and stay away from everything. I say don't assimilate, infiltrate. We don't assimilate back into American society. We infiltrate the society, and then we educate people, because we need them to be more like us. We don't need to be more like them. Why would you ever assimilate into a failed culture? And people think that that's supposed to be something that occurs. It should not occur. It's settling. It's lowering your standards. Why would we ever lower our standards once we have achieved a higher standard? So when I say do not assimilate, it's just that. You were talking about how you're becoming invigorated now. Well, of course you are, because you're starting to focus on the person you are. You're starting to focus on the fact that you chose a chosen profession that is different than other people as a calling. It's something you were called to do. Not everybody is. There's two classes of people in America, the warrior class and the non-warrior class. All this stuff about class warfare, that's a distraction. That's created to keep people divisive towards one another. Because at the end of the day, there's only two classes of people, the warrior class and the non-warrior class. And within the warrior class is the warfighter community. Not everybody in the warrior class is a warfighter. Some people couldn't join. Some people had asthma. Some people, were medically unfit to join, so they couldn't. But that doesn't mean they don't still have that heart of a warfighter. And so when we really break things down into its basic nature, we see a whole bunch of crap that people have superimposed on top of us, saying that you have to be this way, you have to be that way, when really there's nothing wrong with the way we are. And we should embrace that.
Yeah, no, I agree, and there's been so often, and I was talking about earlier, where there's this kind of wanting to have veterans be kind of we should pity them, where they're mentally disturbed, And maybe they're just people that have experienced things and they just need to express it. I mean, we've all experienced very unique things, and we don't need to be pitied. And I like when you said what veterans are looking for when they come back to the country that they fought for is not charity, but opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We're not looking for anything different than other people have, which is the opportunity to be able to facilitate our own futures. And that gets stopped. And the reason that gets stopped quite just boldly, I can tell you, is because of discrimination. You know, a lot of people right now, they're listening to your show and they go, what do you mean discrimination? Well, there's a lot of discrimination against veterans, against warfighters. It looks like this. PTSD phobia, okay? People are so afraid of this thing they call PTSD. Only combat-related PTSD, because if it's a woman that's been raped and she has PTSD, nobody discriminates against her. If it's a guy who's been in a bad car accident and has PTSD, nobody discriminates against him. But 46% of human resources managers say hiring a veteran is a challenge because of PTSD. Well, how come it's not a challenge for the lady that got raped? How come it's not a challenge for a guy that went through a car wreck? It's never even an issue. So really, our discrimination against veterans has become so normalized that people can't even see it. And so I'm standing on top of this big hill going, hey, wake up. This is discrimination. This is wrong. When you go into when a warfighter goes in to try and get a job, here's what happens. The human resources manager looks at the application, the resume, whatever. And when they see combat veteran, here's the things that pop up in the mind. This is according to the Department of Labor. 46% of human resources managers saying hiring a veteran is a challenge because of PTSD. 46% admit it. That's nearly half. What's so scary about us? Because the facts are that a veteran is half as likely to commit a homicide. So if you want to say that we're violent, well, no, we're half as violent as everybody else. That's a fact. But we are 4 times more likely to commit suicide. Why is that? Because the conditions of the environment. Because the conditions of the environment seclude us from this country. And as we're being told this fallacy of you transition, you need to transition. Meanwhile, nobody lets us transition. So we're beating ourselves against the wall all the time. You go and you try and get a job. Human resources manager says, thank you for your service. I'm sorry, you're overqualified. Which really just means I think you have PTSD and I'm not willing to hire you. Warfighter goes down, tries to get an apartment. Fills out the application. The apartment manager, whoever it is, the renting party, sees that there in your address history, maybe you were stationed at Fort Campbell or Camp Pendleton. They ask you about your military service. Next thing you know, your credit report comes back and your credit score is not high enough. So now you can't get a place to live. Well, sooner or later, you're going to end up in divorce court because that's just the way things happen. I mean, greater than 90% of combat veterans are divorced within 5 years. What's that judge going to do? The judge is going to take away your kids because they're afraid you are mentally disturbed with PTSD. And you know that former spouse is going to be talking all that PTSD stuff, making you seem like a big scary monster. Now you're going to lose your kids. Meanwhile, society is telling you, you need to transition. You need to get back into society. We can't get back into society. Society doesn't want us. So I say stop beating your head against the wall. Be a warfighter. Take care of each other. Get back to that battle mind. Just like you're talking about. You feel more secure now when you're like, hey, I can accept a different way of thinking that is more natural, that is just intuitive to you. Well, that's not intuitive out here in this civilian world. So when we get back to what is intuitive to us, it simply works, and we live.
Yeah, no, I noticed that, after a few years when I was kind of talking before you came on, and when I got out, like I couldn't wait to EAS. When I was out, I was like, get me the hell out of here. And it took a little while to me to realize, it was like, holy shit, that was really a cool experience. That was amazing. I was like affecting real change. I was a part of history. We were doing things and a part of something that was powerful. It was amazing, and I was surrounded by men that were just all around a true expression of America. And I was saying that before you came on too. I was like, we're always told about what America is supposed to look like, but when you go in the military, that is America. I served with guys that were black, brown, yellow, all across the board, and we were brothers. We were all fighting for one another. But you go back on America, it's not how it is. Whether we strive to be connected or to have a diverse society, when you go into the military, you're forcing that. But then whatever preconceived BS is flush, and you have to look at that guy next to you. And it's like, I'm going to fight for you, and it doesn't matter what they look like. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter where they came in society. You're now brothers, and you're connected.
It doesn't matter, and it's never going to matter, because once you get rid of all this crap, and you understand what's really important, and you're faced with a true pragmatic situation of life or death, now you know what's really important. And people talk a lot of smack about the military, but here's a few statistical facts that I don't think people relate to enough. For one, right now, only 30% of the people currently trying to get in the military are qualified to get the military. Only 30%. That means there is a 70% attrition rate just to get in. 70% don't make it. Okay? It is harder to get into the military than it is to get into college. That is a fact. There's another fact. You talk about equal work for equal pay. Okay? Females in the civilian world earn on an average 20% less than their male counterparts. Well, in the military, if you're an E5, it doesn't say E5 male, it's E5 female. You get paid as an E5. There's equal pay for equal work. That's been going on since day one. An E5 gets paid an E5. If you're an 04, you get paid as an 04. There's no pay deviation based upon perception of male and female. So equal work for equal pay, that happened in the military. It's been going on forever. Civilians still have not achieved that. Okay, what about equal rights? Okay, well, the military was desegregated 10, 15 years before the Civil Rights Act. See, America follows the military. The military doesn't follow America. We innovate change. Why would we ever want to lower ourselves and assimilate to a failed culture? We are the leadership community. We are the samurai society. We are the descendants of Sparta. Truly. We don't need any more than that. We just need to get back to that and take care of each other. Be that pragmatic leader that we are.
Let me ask you, I want to ask you something, because I went and I did this. There was a talk about veterans and transitioning and thing. It was done. There was a grant given, and they brought me and 5 other authors together. Half of us are combat veterans. The other half are just people that support veterans groups and things like that. But one topic that came up in this conversation, it was a panel, was it's the experience, specifically the generation, those guys now, that sustained combat experience that the men and women are dealing with now has never, I don't think, ever been in our country's history. The constant tour after tour after tour, sustained combat operations is extremely unique and tough. And the country's asking these men and women extraordinary things, and they're doing them. But what's interesting is, say, go back to World War II, it seemed as if the country was behind it. So when the men came back from war, it was a different society. And now it's like, so they asked my opinion on it and how we can educate society. And I told them, I don't think society wants to be educated on it. I don't think they care.
No, they don't. When we come home nowadays, America looks at us. I mean, there's an entitlement in society now. And so with that comes, one, pity without promise. People will offer pity without promise. Oh, in some form, okay? And we really don't want pity. We just want opportunities. But at the end of the day, we're seen as a government problem. When you go and you try and get that job, that human resources manager, or if you try and get that apartment, that apartment manager, or that judge, when they take your kids away, they've got in the back of their mind somewhere that there's a government program that will take care of you so they can do whatever they want to you. See, the discrimination has been normalized. And society and the different entities in society, they do not see us as returning Americans that have done a hard job, and now that support the troops thing needs to come to fruition. Instead, they take the easy way out. They take the excuse. And the excuse is, we're a government problem. The government screwed us up, or the government has benefits that, I mean, for some reason everybody thinks that if you do 4 years in the military, you must come out with some crazy, ridiculous retirement program that's going to take care of you for the rest of your life. That's not true.
I know.
You see what I'm saying?
No, I laugh because it's so true. I know.
And when we put it in each other's face and go, hey, here it is, it's almost like watching a comedy routine that you go, yeah, no crap, that's true. And you do. You want to break out in the song with laughter because it's just so apparent.
Yeah, I'm not laughing because it's funny to laugh at. I'm not making light of it. You know, I'm just it's so true.
FCC? Is this FCC?
No, please. You go ahead and use all your military vernacular you want.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like, really? No shit. That's the truth. And you're going to play this show for other people, and just like when you heard me talk and you looked me up and you saw the videos and you listened to different shows I've done, you go, damn, it's right there. Why didn't I see it? And the reason we don't see it is because the messaging in America is one thing, but the behavior is something else. See, what they say is not what they do, and what they do is not what they say. And so when we get realistic and pragmatic about, okay, this is what people are saying, but what am I actually seeing? Am I seeing a welcome home? No, I'm hearing people say it. Why? Because it's the politically correct thing to do. They're not spitting on us in airports, but I guarantee you they don't want us dating their daughters.
No, you're right. Again, I'm not laughing, but I'm only laughing because the shit's funny because it's how it is.
Oh yeah, I don't mind you laughing. I sit back and just crack myself up all the time because it's like, hey, look, right there it is again.
No, it's because you're speaking the truth, and very few people do that, and that's what's so refreshing about it. You're right. There's so many people want to be politically correct and not just call a spade a spade. And literally, when you were talking about not assimilating, that's exactly what I think guys won't need to hear. I think you've got a message that needs to be put out there, and guys shouldn't. We're also told to come back and we've killed people, and somehow we should be sometimes always morally in struggle about that. I don't understand where that comes from either.
I don't have that either, and I talked to a doctor at the VA. I said, what's the... And he said, am I crazy? Because I don't feel real bad about killing the enemy. I mean, I feel more bad about seeing the atrocities that these people did to each other, than I do anything I did in combat. It just... what the militia did to their own people... keeps me awake at night, but, and maybe some different situations that were imposed upon me might keep me awake at night. But as far as what I did, no, it doesn't hold this enormous weight that people say that it should. And I asked the doctor, I said, am I crazy? Am I a sociopath? I mean, what the hell is it with this? Because I don't feel the way people tell me that I should feel. And here's what it came down to. People are always still comparing things to Vietnam. And a lot of the guys came home from Vietnam, and there was a lot of, not so much the survivor guilt, but the guilt about doing things that was war. I mean, just war, okay? And what it came down to is they were pushing guys out. They were getting training that was very, very minimalistic when it came to basically putting rounds on targets. And so guys, since they weren't as trained with that rote training, that, conditioned response, they were thinking so much about it that it created a moral dilemma. And so when the training changed and when they started going into conditioned responses and more of a reflexive fire type of thing to engage the enemy, and it became just more practice, the scenario, the drill became real, but it was just like going through another training cycle. And so we don't have that same oh my gosh, I don't want to pull the trigger. We just don't have that because we're so conditioned to up, pull the trigger, up, pull the trigger, up, pull the trigger. And so we don't have the same dilemmas that previous generations of warfighters might have had. Where guys have more dilemmas now, again, is the stuff that they saw on the battlefield, oftentimes referring to civilians on the battlefield that got caught up into stuff that really they didn't have anything to do with. They were just living in the environment. So there's a difference there. But no, a lot of guys don't have a tremendous amount of guilt over the things they've done. Where they do have the guilt, which is universal in all wars, is that survivor guilt. You know, why would I survive when my buddy didn't, type of thing. And I think that just comes from living that sense of camaraderie. And you could take that back a long, long ways. And I'd be happy to give you my theory on that whole thing if you're willing to listen. But it's just different now. And we got to stop listening to everybody else's articulation of what it should be and just be really just, balls out honest with what it is for us and have an honest conversation and sort things out that way. But the first thing we can't do is start buying into this crap that, slot A needs to fit with slot B and they were like this, so you're like this. It's not that way. It's just not that way. Yeah. And again, what you're talking about, these repetitive tours, yeah, this is the first time that's happened. We have guys right now on active duty that are more than halfway to retirement that have never seen a day of peace. That means a guy who literally joined the military, if they joined the military the day after 9/11, well, they're more than halfway to retirement and have never seen a day of peace. We are a wartime military, and I think it's going to stay that way. And this is the way, it never has been this way. No. The amount of pressure put on our military to truly, globally, I mean, what's the only thing America exports? War. The only thing we export is war, period. And we do it well. And there's very few of us that carry that burden.
Yeah, I'm a student of history, and nowhere in history are there guys that are just that much combat, just one after another. On this panel I did, there was a retired lieutenant colonel, Marine, and he had done 4 tours. And he came back from his first tour. He was at a barbecue, and this is where he decided that he was going to shut down when he came back. It was interesting. He was a very open guy, and he had this. I guess it was a thought of how he thought Americans would respond when he came back. Right? I guess he had this vision. He said it was naive, but he came back and he was invited to this block party in his neighborhood. And I think at that time he was a captain. And he was invited down. And this guy pulled him aside. The host of the party pulled him aside and said, so why don't you, he goes, can you tell what's going on over in Iraq? What's going on? And for whatever reason, he said he wasn't sure if he had too many beers. He told him exactly what was going on over there. And the guy kind of just looked at him after the conversation, walked away, and he said he never was invited back again, ever. Mm-hmm. And he said, it must have been when he goes, Americans don't want to know the truth. They want, again, it's this pat on the back, kind of the bumper sticker kind of a thing, and then to go on your way. And don't tell me what you're doing on my behalf. I don't really want to hear about it. And he shut down. I
had that happen to me. I was talking to a friend of mine that I'd been in high school with, and it was one of those things I don't know, maybe I was on too many meds at the time. I don't know. I just started talking, and the response was, please don't tell me that again. I don't want to think of you that way.
It's just an odd response. It's if our country's going to send us to war, then they should be open to hearing exactly what war is.
And they're not. It's why are we discriminated against for coming home battle-hardened, for going and fighting the wars this country sent us to? Think about that. We come home battle-hardened from the wars they send us to just so they can discriminate against us? Why would we want to assimilate to that? Why wouldn't we want to rise above that? And so this is going to continue to go on. The only thing that is going to change it is when we band together And just like you're doing right now, you got that kind of warfighter swag again. You got a little bit of a badass feeling again. You just get some pride in your being again, standing up a little straighter, chin a little taller. You know, I mean, all these things. Well, that's not wrong. That's not wrong. When people say that, well, you got to put that behind you. Why? Because you say so? Because the guys came home from World War II and that's what they say they did? Because that's a bunch of crap, too. You really sit down and you talk to a guy in World War II, they all say, now, they'll tell you, yeah, we came home messed up, too. And, yeah, we did go back to work as soon as we got home. Well, that's because they could. The country would accept that. They didn't discriminate against them. But what happened is when they retired 20, 30, 40 years later, and then they got time on their hands, that stuff creeps up. And so it's always there. It's always been there. No generation is any different. And you break down World War II, this isn't to take any respect away from anybody. It's just a fact. The average number of days under fire for the average grunt on the ground was 30 days, maybe 40. Okay, because there was seize this ground, and if you survived, okay, we're going to hold it and hang out for a while. And we're going to get back on the ship, and we're going to go seize this ground. But these were just days at a time, maybe a couple weeks. It wasn't sustained combat. And so, I don't know about your tour, but, you know, I saw 30 days under fire in 32 days. I mean, it's ridiculous the amount of time under fire guys spend when they're outside the wire. And when you're running and gunning, and when you're hitting door after door after door after door on raids at night, doing cordon searches and stuff, it's just, there is a lot of combat time. And the enemy may be different because, you know, we don't have a little green guy war where people are lining up with each other and saying, I'm going to fight you now, I'm going to fight you now, and there's that direct engagement constantly. You saw how it was over there. We engage with guys. They'll engage for a little bit. They'll break contact, and the fight's on. You got to chase them down, run them down, and you get them, and that's that fight. Take them back to the detention facility. Get your ass back outside the wire. Go find more bad guys. Killer capture, killer capture, killer capture. And that's the way it goes. And it's running and gunning constantly. So when people talk about the nature of yesteryear's war and this war, it's just, at the end of the day, war is about killing people. That's it. And whoever kills the most amount of people, causing the enemy to quit, wins. We don't even fight wars like that anymore. Why would we ever want to win a war these days? We don't want to win wars. That makes us responsible for a country. We just want to seize objectives and have exit strategies. We don't win wars anymore. We have exit strategies. You know, what's the exit strategy for Iraq? Afghanistan. What's the exit strategy for Afghanistan? Back to Iraq. What's the exit strategy for all that stuff? Those damn Russians. Those damn Russians. We got to watch those Russians. They just transition from one war to another. It doesn't end anymore.
So you've really kind of, I mean, I have to admit, it's just my disengagement from a lot of this again, kind of in the shadows, doing what I do, writing books and things like that. Proud of my service, but again, just, you know, hanging out with the guys, you know, I know, and the brothers and things like that. But I have to admit, like the concept of the warfighters' rights movement is new to me. Can you explain what that is?
The warfighter rights movement it's directly akin to the civil rights movement, because in our country, we keep coming. We'll just go back to Vietnam again, or you can even go back further than that, go to Korea. But when our country started not treating us right when we came home, and then they feel bad. Oh, that generation did bad things to that generation, and we feel bad. From now on, we're going to welcome you home. And we take it on their word. Well, that's not working. We can't take it on their word anymore. And I'm not going to let this next generation of warfighter come home and go through the same crap that's happening now. This is completely, there's no other word other than exploitation. This is exploitation of human beings. This is exploitation of Americans. the warfighter. This is discrimination. And so we've got to look at it for what it is. By definition, it's discrimination. It's abuse. And it's exploitation. So the only way we're going to ensure that this doesn't happen to future generations is to put some teeth behind our barking, put some teeth behind the guilt that America feels for the wrongness that they do to us. And with that comes legislation. With that comes changing things in the courts, removing judges that are doing the wrong things and not applying the law in a way that does not exploit people. If we don't make that change and hard line make that change and get it written into law, your kids, everybody's kids, what are they going to face? Because we've been waiting for this country to come around and change and accept us and all this other stuff. And yeah, again, they're not spitting on us in the airports anymore, but they don't want you dating their daughter.
And they'll let you die at the VA.
They'll let you die in the VA in a heartbeat. And now they want to do things. It's ridiculous.
Well, it's that thing. It's and I'm not being cynical, by the way. I think what you're doing is I want to support what you're doing. I want to do whatever I can to support this because I think it's important. But I'm also cynical at the same time because the entire VA thing is just mind-boggling. I mean, it's not mind-boggling because I know how the bureaucracy works. Bureaucracy in itself is cumbersome. It's bloated. It's usually ineffective. But just the systematic or systemic issue that happened there for years, by the way, is and where I would have thought there would have been more outcry when this thing came up months ago, right? And it was out there, and no one cares. It literally feels like no one gives a shit at all.
Well, once it makes that news cycle, yeah, come on. America has important things to talk about, like Kim Kardashian's ass and what's going on with Honey Boo Boo. I mean, these things it's on everybody's mind. Okay, so we understand that we're probably not going to get a lot of attention and support from the American people because, let's just face it. They don't care. There's apathy. They just don't care. And so until we rally with each other and really make a commitment to say, you know what, one more mission. Let's fix this shit. We can do it. We've taken over countries on behalf of our government. Don't we have an obligation to take over our country on behalf of our people?
Yeah, no, I've thought about it. It could be controversial. I say let's just do it under arms, but that would get a lot of people really upset. And I'm not saying we do that, but sometimes I get mad enough to feel like, well, you know something? You're not going to make this work. What you just said, I feel like, well, shit. We've taken over countries. Why not just take this one over?
Well, we can, and we have the greatest tool ever, and it's really not a gun. It's political correctness. Because with political correctness, the opposite side of that coin is political risk. Okay? And so when you start utilizing political risk and imposing political risk on those that are elected and utilizing media appropriately and properly, you have a more effective revolution, a non-kinetic revolution. And nobody can fight it. Nobody can even resist it. So we want to use the conditions of the environment that are applicable, that are present, to our advantage. And the most pinnacle condition of the environment is political correctness. So, what is the other side of that coin? Again, political risk. If you start imposing political risk, especially now with social media and people who truly know about non-kinetic operations and things like that, I was a PSYOPer. This is not difficult. We just need to rally around each other, come together, get focused, get organized, unplug, link up, organize, or die. That's it, okay? Unplug from social media, link up with each other physically, organize our operation, or we're going to die. The suicide rate. People talk about, it's 22 a day. That's so horrible. 22 a day is the most minimum number possible. Most minimum. That number is easily 5 times higher, and I can prove it. For one, not every state reported. For two, the states that reported only reported the deaths that went through the VA system. So that means, well, I'll ask you, what county do you live in?
Me, San Diego County.
Okay, you're in San Diego County. If you hang yourself in your shower, San Diego sheriffs are going to come out, okay? They're going to take you down. They're going to take you to the coroner's office. They're going to slice you, dice you. They're going to put you in the ground. Somebody's going to pray over your body. Your family's going to cry. That's that. Well, if you didn't go through the VA, you just went to the coroner's office, that number doesn't get counted as a suicide, a veteran suicide. It just gets counted as a suicide, but it doesn't go to the veteran numbers. So when we talk about the 22 a day, that's the most minimum number possible, because those are the only ones that went to the VA system and in the states that reported. Not every state reported. I'll take it for you again. If a warfighter, I guarantee you, people listening right now, they're going, yeah, I did that. If a warfighter takes their vehicle, slams it into a pylon to commit suicide, single vehicle car accidents are 2, 3, 4 times higher for veterans, combat veterans, than for non-veterans. Do you think that we're really that bad a driver? No. That's an unreported suicide. So single vehicle car accidents, and you know it like I know it, man. You're sitting there driving, angry, and like, fuck it. I just turn this wheel right now. Well, there are guys that actually do that. And that does not get counted as a suicide. So 22 a day, people are alarmed by that. That's the most minimum number possible.
What do you think that number lies in at, on all your research and whatnot?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I can safely say, in good faith, my belief, that number's 3 or 4 times higher.
Wow. And what can we do to help prevent that?
Well, one, the Spartan Pledge, I think, helps a lot with that, and that's just, and the Spartan Pledge is pretty simple. I will not take my life by my own hand until I talk to my battle buddy first. My mission is to have a mission to help my warfighter family. And when you have a warfighter that makes a commitment to another warfighter and says, hey, if I start to get that bad juju feeling, I'm going to call you. I'm not going to promise you that I won't commit suicide, but at least I owe you the respect to say goodbye. Well, that changes things, because now, we're, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. And when the warfighter links up, when you make that call, just hearing the other warfighter's voice changes things. And 2, when you have a mission in front of you and a battle buddy next to you, nothing can stop you. And so when we have a mission, you write, you have your show, I write, I have my show, a couple other things. But when I have a mission to help my warfighter family, for some reason it just works, because we're back in that battle mind. It just works. It's when we ignore our battle mind, when we try and do what this craziness, this crazy belief of getting back into society, it just doesn't work. It doesn't exist. So when we stop driving ourselves crazy, we stop acting crazy. We get focused. We get things done. We don't want to die. We have a mission.
Yeah, that all rings true for me. After I got out, I immediately connected back in jobs and professions where other military guys were in. I got out. Next thing you know, I'm a commercial diver, and guess who else is around me as I'm a commercial diver? Bunch of other guys that are getting out, or that were in the military. And the same thing, and I transitioned from that to be an executive protection agent. And guess who's doing that?
Exactly.
So I mean, I never kind of left in a lot of ways. I just went from being in the armed services to being in jobs where it was dominated by military men.
Right, and so you could get along. And that's the case that's continued. We say this all the time, and I think it to be true. A warfighter without a mission is a dead warfighter. But a warfighter with a mission is a deadly warfighter. And so it's all about that mission and being able to associate with like-minded people. We're just different. I mean, we're the leaders of the warrior class. We're just different. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not saying, in this society where everybody gets a trophy and we're all equal, okay, fine. We can all be equal. But that doesn't mean we're all the same. And there's nothing wrong with hanging out with people that are the same like you. That doesn't make you a bigot, a racist, an elitist. That just means birds of a feather flock together, and my birds just happen to be people who fight wars as a profession. Don't judge me. Don't judge you. That's our life. That's how we think. That's how we believe. There's nothing wrong with that.
I agree. Hey, Boon, we're coming up on the top of the hour. I've got about 2 more minutes. Can you just tell everybody real quick, because the bumper music comes on in about 2 minutes. Yeah, just tell everybody where they can contact you, email you, where they can find out more information about you, your show, Tipping Point, as well as the Warfighters' Rights Movement.
Yeah, no problem. Just go to Tipping Point with Boon Cutler on Facebook. That's the best way to reach out to me. There's a closed group that I think is better than the open page. It just helps me not have to mess with all the Facebook algorithms. But just look for Tipping Point with Boon Cutler. You can find me pretty easily. Also, go to warfightermedia.com. Warfightermedia.com. You can find my shows there, my podcast shows, and you can also find how to join the Warfighter Rights Movement. So if I can really drive people that want to make change, we've separated the country into several brigades. There's a battalion near you that you can join. But join the Warfighter Rights Movement. Go to warfightermedia.com. Find out all your information right there.
Awesome, man. I really appreciate you coming on such last minute. You really made my day. Happy Veterans Day to you, man. I will stay in contact with you. And if any updates, you're always welcome on my show.
No, I appreciate it, man. I think we should collab on a book, to be honest with you.
I'm ready to go. I can do it.
You ready?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it seriously. I'm going to go get a tattoo right now, and I'll give you a call tomorrow.
All right, brother. But hey, you be safe out there and stay frosty. All right.
Hey, no worries. Head on a swivel.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, and of course to you as well. Stay frosty out there.